night, and welcome to Fast Break Breakfast, NBA podcast. My name is Keith, here, alone, for just a solo episode. Hopefully later in the week, we'll get a full episode back up with John and Chuck. I know we haven't had a full show since right after the Raptors won the championship. But hopefully later in the week, we'll have one of those so we can get their reactions, get all of our reactions of just NBA news. Maybe we'll review the award show from Monday night. Probably not. But we will look ahead to free agency as we have this dead week where it's just going to be rumors. Rumors of rumors. Even things like Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris are both leaving, or Kyrie Irving can't stop partying. The Nets are no longer interested. But later in the week, we'll have some more John and Chuck, we hope. If you want more John and Chuck, they are actually available right now on our Slack channel. You can go to patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Sign up for the Patreon-only Slack, and they're in there. They'll give you their full opinions on everything that's been going on. Chuck with his ideas of where Hassan Whiteside can be traded now that Hassan has opted into his $27 million contract for next season. Also in that Slack, welcome to our newest member there, Justin. I don't have your last name in front of me, but thanks for joining. Again, if anybody else out there wants to join, patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. And congratulations to our Stone Cold Locks playoff challenge winners. Our Patreon supporters throughout the entire playoffs. You could pick the series winners, and then you could gamble your points, and you could pick the length of games. Anyway, our overall winner, well, technically our overall winner was John. It's not great that the host won. All right, it's kind of great. Maybe it shows that we know what we're doing. I know you guys don't believe that, but John was the overall winner. But since he's a host, he can't win the grand prize. The grand prize goes to our boy, Matt Rutkowski, a.k.a. Monte World Peace, who has won a gift certificate to the NBAstore.com. By the way, Matt, just so you know, the clearance section on an NBA store, there's always some weird stuff. They might still have those weird themed Team Owls. There's a Team Owl set. There's some trolls, I guess, is the word for them. There's some weird stuff on there. Check it out, but enjoy that. Also, congratulations to Mike Friedrich, who won the cash prize for the people who bought in the optional pool. So thanks to everyone who played, but Matt and Mike were the big winners there. All right, now the NBA draft last Thursday provided a lot of good drama. We obviously held our Grizzlies Nashville watch party, which was a ton of fun. Just a great night for the Grizzlies. It's always a fun night for the NBA. It wasn't as great of a night for some franchises, and I'll get into that in just a second. But I kind of want to offer a breakfast in bed apology for that draft night, because I had said previously that I had no opinion on who I thought the Grizzlies should take at 23, because I just didn't know the draft prospects. I don't watch college. I don't study the prospects. There's just too much else going on for me to become much of a draft analyst. But during the draft, one of the few guys I was interested in, who I thought would have no way of dropping to the Grizzlies, was Brandon Clark. And so somewhere around pick 16 or 17 at this Grizzlies watch party draft, I was starting to think, you know what? Is it possible that Brandon Clark falls all the way to the Grizzlies? And I guess the reason I was interested in him is because Cole Zwicker, who's one of my favorite draft guys, was talking about how this guy he thinks is one of the best players in the draft. He had him as one of the top tier of dudes right behind Zion Williamson. He believed in his upside as an offensive player, which a lot of people were discounting. Brandon Clark was falling because he's older than a lot of the guys drafted. He wasn't as tall as people might have hoped. His wingspan wasn't that big. So he's only 6'8". He's kind of light. His wingspan is only 6'8". And people thought he had no offensive game. But he's an elite defensive prospect. He has an unbelievable vertical leap, which you don't normally get with players his height. and he was incredibly efficient from the field. And the people who were very high on him, like the Ringer had him, I think, 7 overall. Draft Express people were pretty high on him. If you're high on him, it's because you think he might actually have some offensive upside like Cole did. Cole thought he could become a steady jump shooter because he had decent form, was an okay free throw shooter. Anyway, I didn't think I would have an opinion, but I was wrong. Once it got to be like the late teens, I was like, oh my gosh, could they get Brandon Clark to pair with Jaren Jackson Jr.? And I got very excited. Also, apology to those people at the Mainstay who were Grizzlies fans who did not understand when I started screaming that the Grizzlies had traded to get the Thunder's 21st pick. And then when the Thunder were drafting at 21, it was going to be Brandon Clark. I was very excited, and I was running around hunting for high fives. And people were a little confused, a little perplexed. Perhaps I did not explain the situation that well. But apologies, one, for saying I didn't have an opinion. Turns out I did have an opinion. And also apologies to the people I confused by screaming and running around. Also, I think another apology, a different topic. I think the NBA as a whole should apologize to Bol Bol, who was in the green room. And this might be turkey bacon conspiracy. I'm pretty sure the NBA knew that he was going to fall, or I guess air quotes, fall in the draft. And I think they put Bol Bol in that green room just to be a spectacle on TV, just for the cameras to linger on him and to be like, this is awkward. He's still in the green room. Why won't a team take a risk? Or why won't a team take a chance on Bol Bol? I think they knew that was going to happen. I think it was obvious why he wasn't going to get drafted high, because he was so skinny. He had the foot injury, the navicular fracture, and everyone has always talked about his motor is pretty low. So I think, and this might just be cynical, but the NBA put him in that green room just for the fictional drama created of him being in there and dropping. I think it was done only for television purposes, and thus the NBA as a whole should apologize to Bol Bol. Anyway, all right, those were my breakfast in bed apologies. For the rest of the show, I'm going to give you my steak and eggs. I'm going to give you a couple cream of wheats for draft night, and then I'm going to break down, go over some of the national NBA news, and then look in depth. You can call it a Grizzlies epilogue. I'm going to go in depth on the Grizzlies draft night and their roster and the offseason and some things we need to be looking forward to. And we'll get to that right after this.
SeatGeek saves you time and saves you money. Two of the more important commodities in our lives these days. They aggregate ticket selling sites together, so you don't have to go to 8 sites and then, I'm going to look at the 9th one now because I'm not quite sure. I was totally that way, of course. And then they also rank every ticket based on value. So you look at the section you want to sit in, find that big green dot, the darker green, the better. You'll start to experience just endorphins when you see that green dot and know that you're getting an awesome deal on the ticket. I used SeatGeek to go to a Bucks Wizards game, got awesome seats there for my fiance and me. So the way to get started with them, download the SeatGeek app and enter that familiar promo code
Fast Break Break.
By using that code to get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. That's promo code
Fast Break Break.
For $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Let them know that you came from us.
Fast Break Break. John is an asshole. Fast Break Break.
All right, steak and eggs, best thing. The best thing I saw, unrelated to the draft. I'm going to dial it all the way back to last Monday, the Toronto Raptors championship parade. My guy, Marc Gasol, tied one on, big time. He was dancing around like one of those inflatable car dealership dancing men, the inflatable tubes that just flail in the wind. The man was pounding drinks. It looked like he had a steel reserve at some point. He definitely chugged a bottle of wine like Andre the Giant. He was dancing wildly. He had a crazed look in his eye. He reminded me of, at one point, he was jutting his lower jaw out. Kind of gave me that Leonardo DiCaprio from A Wolf on Wall Street. At the end of the parade, when they have the ceremony, he's actually sitting by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and he is so drunk. And he keeps whispering to Danny Green, who's sitting beside him, how drunk he is. So this guy got totally smashed. And I'm actually going to play you a clip from Danny Green's podcast where he explains how messed up Marc got.
There's a clip that's out there of Marc. I'm trying to do my best interpretation. You play you. I'm going to play Marc. He's just like, I'm drunk. Do you remember that? You remember him saying that to you?
Said it right next a lot of times, actually. It wasn't more than once. And he's sitting next to the Prime Minister. I'm like, Marc, get your shit together, man. Knock it off. And he's, I'm drunk, bro. That's my song. Like, the DJ's playing. He don't know, but he don't know that's my song, though. I'm like, the real Memphis came out in Marc. Yeah. When he started drinking, he was dancing a little bit. He's happy drunk, fun drunk. I think he bit me too at one point. I was starting to start passing. I was like, fuck, bit me.
He bit you?
God damn it, Marc. Yeah, I think he bit me. I was like, I did. I got him good. That's when I knew. I said, Matt, come here. I told Matt, come over here.
Matt who?
He was doing the
Matt Devlin? Yeah.
You cannot give Marc the mic, man. I'm being a teammate here. I'm helping him save his career, possibly. He might say something crazy.
So that's Danny Green explaining that Marc Gasol, 1, bit him, 2, should not have been allowed near a microphone out of fear of what might happen. So that was my best thing. Obviously, you want Marc Gasol to win it for the Grizzlies, but so happy for Marc and the joy which he was celebrating the accomplishment. All right, the opposite of the steak and eggs best thing, cream of wheat worst of week, and I have several mainly from the NBA draft night. Everyone's talking about this, and we've hit a point where it's almost not fun picking on the Phoenix Suns. I mean, I've done my share of kicking this team while it's down. This is the team I cheered for almost, I think, my entire teenage years. I was pulling for the Suns. But now, the Suns last year, what did they win? 19 games? They win 19 games. They plunge in the lottery, so they end up with the 6th pick. Then they trade that 6th pick to the Timberwolves for the 11th pick. This is after, in the day, they've traded TJ Warren and the 32nd pick for literally nothing. They dumped TJ Warren and the 32nd pick for just cap space. And part of this is I'd been coming up with all these mock trades where I send Mike Conley to the Suns and I get the 6th pick and I get TJ Warren and I get Tyler Johnson. And Suns fans were like, no way, man. We're not just giving away TJ Warren. He's a good player. We don't need Mike Conley. He's not on our timeline. I'm like, all right, fine. So they trade away TJ Warren, who is their second or third best player. I guess DeAndre Ayton maybe is their second best, or you hope he's their second best. He's a guy who averaged 18 points per game last year and shot 40% from 3. But anyway, they trade away TJ Warren for nothing. They have the 6th pick. They trade the 6th pick, the 32 pick, TJ Warren, for Dario Saric and the 11th pick. Dario Saric, there's only one more year on his rookie deal, so he's going to need a big contract next year. The 11th pick, they use it on Cam Johnson, which I don't know anything about Cam Johnson other than, as this has been widely reported, he's older than Devin Booker. Not only is he older than Devin Booker, get this, he's older than Javon Carter. Wow. Did not think that was possible. So they drafted a 24-year-old with the 11th pick, a guy that many mock drafts had in the 20s or the 30s. So they go from having the second worst record last season to getting the 11th pick and drafting a guy that was supposedly going to be a late first rounder. That is just brutal. And they also they traded to get a point guard later in the draft, which most people are pretty okay with. Ty Jerome. And they picked up Aaron Baines, but picking up Aaron Baines means they don't even have max cap space really anymore. So I'm feeling bad. I might make a moratorium on poking fun at the Suns, but just that deal, that series of deals from draft night, I'm having a lot of trouble getting over. And I'm sad. I'm sad as a Grizzlies fan. If they were giving away TJ Warren in the 32nd pick for nothing, now why didn't the Grizzlies take that? The Grizzlies could have taken him into that traded player exception that we talked about last week with the Mike Conley contract, or the Mike Conley trade. They could have just accepted it. So that's bumming me out. Another cream of wheat, a double helping of cream of wheat. Because of the NBA league calendar, where the previous season officially ends on June 30th, and then the new calendar starts July 1st, and then there's a moratorium for the first 5 days of July while the accountants and whoever else is getting the salary cap figures prepared for the coming season. And that is important to know exactly what the salary cap is, because that affects the max contracts and the mid-level exceptions and all kinds of things. You want to know exactly what the salary cap is before you start agreeing to contracts with free agents. But because of this weirdness, and because so many of these draft night trades and trades before the NBA draft that are announced and agreed upon, they can't officially happen until July 6th. That's the weirdness with the Anthony Davis trade. And so even though the Pelicans got the 4th pick from the Lakers, it's still like a Lakers pick technically. And then even though the Pelicans traded that 4th pick to the Hawks, it's just a mess. They can't actually happen. And because of all this, because these deals can't actually officially occur, a lot of people are pointing out how dumb it is that the guys have to put on the incorrect team hats on draft night. It also is going to be incredibly stupid because when we get to Summer League, a lot of these players can't play with their new teams or their actual teams that took them until after July 6th. So you have the California Classic, the Summer League in Sacramento. It takes place before July 6th. The Utah Summer League, like the Grizzlies are playing in the Utah Summer League. Brandon Clark can't play in the Utah Summer League because he was officially a pick of the Thunder at 21. So it's a mess. Because there were so many trades involving first-round picks, here's the list of guys who can't play until after July 6th. DeAndre Hunter, the 4th pick. The Hawks can't see him initially. Jarrett Culver to the Timberwolves. Jackson Hayes to the Pelicans. Cam Johnson. Maybe that old man actually is going to be really incredible at basketball, but we can't find out until after July 6th. Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Brandon Clark. Darius Bazley. Ty Jerome. KZ Okpala. And then even more second-round picks. So because of the weird league calendar, these guys can't make their debuts until later in Summer League. So I kind of hate that. All right, I'm going to do a little scattered, covered, and smothered of NBA news before doing a hardcore look at the Memphis Grizzlies. Willie Cauley-Stein has expressed that he doesn't want to come back to the Sacramento Kings. Based on the reaction I saw on Twitter underneath this news, it seems like Kings fans are happy to see him go. I don't think it's a great look for Willie. I feel like he's going to lose money in this exchange. I hope that at the very least that maybe the Kings are going to offer him the qualifying offer. I think it's like $6 million, which is pretty decent. I don't think he's going to sign for much more than that per year. I mean, maybe someone because of his athleticism and his perceived rim protection and rim running ability. Sometimes that rim protection isn't actually there. Maybe he will get a little bit more money, but it just adds to an incredibly deep free agent center market. As we've talked about, Al Horford's out there somewhat unexpectedly, and then Brook Lopez and Nick Vucevic and Jonas Valanciunas. Now Willie Cauley-Stein, my guy Dwayne Dedman. There's just a lot of options out there for center. Robin Lopez, even if you're getting in your value plays. So there's a lot of options out there, and I don't know, with Harrison Barnes and some of the other big free agent names who, again, opted out surprisingly. It's going to be interesting. There's a ton of money out there, but I don't think it's going to be super great for Willie Cauley-Stein. The news around the Thunder continues to be they are looking to tear it down due to salary. And I'm still having trouble believing they're just going to give away Steven Adams, even though he's owed almost $50 million the next 2 seasons. So that's going to be something to monitor, whether a team like the Celtics ends up trying to get him with some of their newly acquired cap room that they're opening up. Obviously, I would love for the Grizzlies to bring him in, even if he isn't a shooter, and they probably need a little bit more offense to pair alongside a Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark frontline rotation. But even though he takes up salary next year, and this might seem like I'm reversing my stance, the Grizzlies now have so much salary cap space opened up for 2020 that I'm okay with taking in some of that negative salary. I'll get to that in just a second. Also, the Blazers, I think I don't know if it's just rumors, but it sounds like that maybe they would consider doing like an all-in move to get Kevin Love, despite how much money he's owed and how long his contract goes. With the Warriors' injuries, if the West is going to be wide open, if this is a championship window, if Kawhi Leonard leaves the Raptors, or even if he stays in Toronto, the West is there for the taking, and if they could just trade away some future draft picks and guys they don't need that much, a Myers Leonard and Evan Turner, and just match that salary, like would the Cavs, who already are paying a ton in team salary because of those bad deals they took last season, that paying Brandon Knight and paying John Henson, would they accept from the Trailblazers, like a 2020 lottery protected pick and then like a 2022 top 5 protected pick or something? Like, I think the Blazers could make a big all-in deal like that. Would the Cavs accept those okay assets, future assets, just to unload themselves of the Love contract? I mean, they don't necessarily need to get rid of Kevin Love, but would they do it if the Blazers decided they would go all in and trade 2 first-round picks? Also, some news for Summer League, especially if you're going to NBA Summer League. Apparently, Zion Williamson is only going to play a couple of games. I don't know if he's going to play the first 2 games. When I initially looked at the schedule, I saw the Pelicans were Friday night and Saturday night, kind of the primetime slots in the Thomas and Mack Center. So those might be your only chances to see Zion Williamson in Summer League. But I don't know, maybe they wouldn't have him play back-to-back nights, so maybe he would hold him out till another night. So apparently he's only going to play those first couple games. Also, this is some slight intelligence. I can't tell you how I heard this, but the New York Knicks, who they might win 9 games next year, depending on what goes in free agency. They're in a tough situation because they cleared out all that room. They traded Porzingis to have this max cap space. They thought maybe Kevin Durant was their guy, and now Durant's hurt. But they are going to still apparently try to get some big-name free agents, and I'm told they are filming a free agency recruitment video for Kawhi Leonard. So the Knicks haven't been listed as one of Kawhi's meetings he's going to take, but apparently the Knicks are, maybe just for PR purposes, they are filming a free agency video for Kawhi Leonard. I don't know what the Knicks are going to do. I don't even know what I would do if I were the Knicks. I would probably pay some B-list free agents maybe a lot of money this season and say, hey, but it's going to be a team option. Like I would offer Harrison Barnes. I'd be like, hey, buddy, okay, we'll give you 1 year, $25 million, and it'll be a team option for next year, which we're not going to take. Because I think if they strike out on the A-list guys, I think Knicks fans agree it's worst case scenario to lock up like a B-list guy for multiple seasons. You don't want to kind of mess up that cap space going forward. I mean, RJ Barrett and Kevin Knox and Mitchell Robinson, they're all by themselves. I almost think that maybe like a veteran free agent, a smart guy like a Kyle O'Quinn, he'll go back to New York. He'll take over that bar mitzvah lifestyle he was loving, but he'll do it knowing that the Knicks might not meet the minimum salary threshold, and he might get cut an extra check. He's thinking, hey, you know what? I might get that extra check that they have to give to their players if they don't meet the salary floor. I also would be very willing to take on bad salary. I think that's something the Knicks should do. Bring Mozgov back. Maybe the Magic want to get rid of his $17 million expiring salary. All those guys who have bad contracts for this season, but that are expiring, I think the Knicks are going to want to be in the market for taking those. And that brings me to the Memphis Grizzlies, who I think badly should also do that. So the Grizzlies had a best-case scenario draft night if you were a person like the aforementioned Cole Zwicker or the people who thought Brandon Clark has a little more offensive upside. Getting Brandon Clark, who was a lottery talent in most boards, is such a big win for this team. And on the one hand, it just adds excitement to the Grizzlies, a team, a moribund franchise the last 2 seasons. Getting Jaren Jackson Jr., getting Ja Morant, getting Brandon Clark, the optimism is going to be super high. Ja Morant is not going to play in Summer League, so we'll get to keep our optimism high. There will be no raining on that parade. This is not going to be him coming out and struggling like draft picks before. It should be okay. So there is some part of me that thinks of the Brandon Clark falling. It seems similar to the Deontay Davis. I mean, I hate to do that to you, to throw that back out there. But Deontay Davis, newest rocket, of course. But there is some of that, like a high lottery-ish talent guy. But everyone says Brandon Clark, it's different than the higher motor, a much more athletic player, a much more agile player, and a much higher jumper, a guy who gets way above the rim, should be catching some crazy alley-oops. The Grizzlies, who have something like 20 alley-oops in their team's franchise history, and half of those are to Jared Bayless, are finally going to be above the rim with Jaren Jackson Jr., with Brandon Clark, even with Ja Morant, who can be on the receiving end of some of those, hopefully from Kyle Anderson. So the team is going to be very exciting because of getting that front court in. You know, it might affect what they do with Jonas Valanciunas. I do think they need to bring in a legit veteran center. I'm fine with even bringing in Jonas back if he wants to take a similar salary that maybe decreases, so like 17 this year, and then that full, whatever it is, 7% decline, which is allowed, so like 15.5 next year, and then maybe a team option that third year. I'm not excited about a third year. I'm very consistent on that point. But so maybe Jonas comes back. When you look at the Grizzlies roster, we know what most of it's going to be now, and there aren't that many spots. You got Jaren Jackson Jr., Ja Morant, Brandon Clark, and then there is Kyle Anderson and Jay Crowder, you assume are going to stay. Dylan Brooks, almost certainly. He's non-guaranteed, but he's definitely coming back. Then Grayson Allen. So that's 7 guys. CJ Miles, Chandler Parsons, Javon Carter. That's 10 players that are under contract for next year. I think it's possible you see a situation where Chandler Parsons is going to leave the team. I would keep his salary around just for freedom to make a big trade if you need to later, although if nothing pans out, he's definitely going to be bought out. I don't know if he's going to play any minutes for the Grizzlies this season. So then you have Bruno Caboclo, who is non-guaranteed. I assume he'd be back just because he's a young guy. You get a free look at him or a look at him on another minimum contract, so he's coming back. Ivan Rabb is your big question mark. He's non-guaranteed. That'd be your 12th guy. Kyle Korver is 13. I think Korver, if he's cut before July 7, you only have to pay him about half of his salary, which is $3.44 million. I think with this young squad, I would keep him around almost just for the locker room type stuff. I think having a guy like him, having a guy like CJ Miles around to show the younger players their work habits, a sense of professionalism, a sense of shooting, obviously, but just to help that locker room, to help even the coaching staff, which we don't know who the coaching staff is going to be, but we do know we have a very young first-time head coach. I want to have these solid veteran locker room guys to stick around. So I would think I would keep Kyle Korver. And then there's also Avery Bradley, who is owed either $1.5 million or $2 million. I see different things. If he's cut before or by July 3rd, if he isn't cut, he's owed $13 million. And I think despite filling a positional need on the Grizzlies, they have no decent shooting guards on the team. Dylan Brooks can kind of play shooting guard. You know, Grayson Allen Sure, he dropped 40 points in the last game of the season last year, but he's a big project still. There's no real shooting guards. CJ Miles and Kyle Korver can't guard a 2. So I think despite filling a positional need, you're going to waive him just to keep the team. One, it opens up some salary cap room if you want to use that. If Jonas Valanciunas moves on, if you waive Avery Bradley, you can get like $16 million or so in salary cap room, which is kind of interesting. I mean, there are some guys out there that the team could look at. Like, you know, I don't endorse this, but some people are talking about like a Rodney Hood, or maybe they want to make a restricted offer to a Kelly Oubre to get a wing, which I think I'd be kind of all right with that. I mean, there's other guys, Bobby Portis, who I think they've looked at before, who could be like a scoring 4 to take some of that offensive punch, because they're going to need some offense. You know, even like a Reggie Bullock just to get a shooter. You know, so that waiving Avery Bradley can open up that cap room. If you want to get really crazy, if you waive Avery Bradley, if Jonas Valanciunas leaves, and then you renounce DeLon Wright, if he goes somewhere else, then you can get pretty close to like a max slot. If I know a lot of people fantasize about overpaying Malcolm Brogdon or something, or paying a lot to Tobias Harris. You know, you could do that. You could actually, there's a way to get it done. But I mean, more than likely, it's going to be, if they bring in a free agent like that, you got to think it's going to be of the Jeremy Lamb kind of camp, which I'm not super excited. I would, in a scenario where Valanciunas leaves, I would like to see them maybe use some of that cap on a young, see if you can get a young restricted free agent like a Thomas Bryant, which maybe wouldn't cost that much. I don't mind bringing in Trey Lyles, who's kind of cheap. And also, if you don't do anything with DeLon Wright, you got to find someone to play point guard. Restricted free agent Tomas Satoransky, I'd be a big fan of. Our listeners probably know. He could play multiple positions. I think he's a good versatile guy to bring in. And then maybe they're going to get stuck. Maybe it's Ish Smith's return if DeLon Wright moves on. But anyway, their roster is pretty full, and I do think, speaking of DeLon Wright, that's a guy they need to prioritize bringing back. He is the restricted free agent. I think they need a veteran point guard, a veteran backcourt player. And if you have all these players, I'm looking at probably 13 players. This is assuming Avery Bradley's gone. You have 13 players. That's counting Kyle Korver. That's counting Ivan Rabb, who might end up being, Ivan Rabb might end up being a guy who gets cut in training camp this coming season. But I think you kind of need to bring back DeLon Wright, and I think his price might be going up. The way free agency is shaking out, I think beforehand I was thinking I would want to pay him maybe $8 million per year, but not much more than that. Now I think it seems likely he could probably find himself an offer sheet for the full mid-level, which will be over $9 million, might be up to $10 million. And I think that's an okay price for the Grizzlies, again, because of now they have a little bit more financial flexibility this season, and they have a lot of flexibility the next couple seasons. And I think he provides the value of having a steadying influence and a good veteran guy to be on this team. Because, you know, you want to give Ja Morant, I guess to some degree, you want to give Ja Morant the car keys, but you don't want it to be all on him. And you want to give him a break sometimes if he's having a rough game or if he's leading the NBA in turnovers or something. I'm just kidding. He can't catch James Harden. But if he's having a rough go, you want that steadying influence. So I think the Grizzlies need to prioritize probably bringing in DeLon Wright, because there aren't many veteran options beyond him. If it isn't Ish Smith, if they do want to pay Darren Collison, who I'm not going to be excited about that. So I think you're going to need to have someone as that steadying hand. And DeLon Wright, as we've joked, he's second all-time in Grizzlies triple-doubles. He came on strong at the end of last season when obviously the games didn't matter. But I'd be happy to have him back. And I think the Grizzlies, from the reporting, is they're going to keep him. So imagine DeLon Wright comes back, and imagine you waive Avery Bradley and you decide to keep Korver and CJ Miles. That's pretty much a full roster. You have 14 players. That's not counting Jonas Valanciunas. And that just makes things very interesting. You know, whatever happens with Jonas, I think offensively having him back just to score some points and again take that load off of Jaren Jackson Jr. at the 5 is a good idea, but I'm not going to be upset to see him go, despite the fact he was very popular last season, and because I want to keep the options open for taking some negative salary from other teams. The Grizzlies aren't going to be very good this season, even with hitting a home run on draft night. We don't know if John Morant is going to be a positive on the court in year 1. We don't know if Brandon Clark, honestly. I mean, he was a 21st pick. He's not a for sure impact player. We just hope he is, and it seems like there's a lot of promise that he could be. And so because of that, and because of the traded player exception, which they got by sending Conley to the Jazz and not taking back as much salary, they can accept some bad salaries into their traded player exception. And I would love to see it. If it is like, if the Magic want to clear space and they want to send Mozgov to a team and can attach a few second-round picks, like, we accept it. All right, Mozgov is obviously, he's no Jonas Valanciunas. We're not getting him for what he does on the court. Can he play 5 and help out? That's fine, but we're getting him for teams attaching picks to take his salary. A guy like Courtney Lee could come back. The Thunder, who we mentioned, they're trying to dump salary. They would just give the Grizzlies, would they give the Grizzlies some second-round picks or even a protected future first to take Andre Robertson, because that would save them so much in luxury tax payments. There's just a bunch of teams out there that might be looking to dump guys. The Clippers, if they want to create 2 max slots, need to get rid of Danilo Gallinari. I would take Danilo Gallinari on the Grizzlies for 1 season. He's just a hired gun. The guy is an incredibly efficient scorer, and that would be great for the Grizzlies to have a guy. This is a team. Everyone is a low usage, not offensive player. We hope Jaren Jackson Jr. becomes a high usage scorer maybe in year 2, but I would accept these guys. So I think going into free agency, one of the things that the challenges of this young front office, which seems to be doing a great job so far, is keeping those options open and seeing what is the most or the best future assets they can get for using their own cap space. And that's why I would probably definitely waive Avery Bradley, just to keep yourself far away from that luxury tax where you can accept a very big contract. If a team gets desperate, if the Miami Heat are like, fine, we have to get rid of Hassan. Although I think Hassan Whiteside's contract, it is too big to go into that traded player exception. But just any team out there who gets desperate, even at the trade deadline, to unload some salary, the Grizzlies should be willing to accept those salaries. If they can include a first-round pick, I would even be willing to accept a salary that goes into next season, because there aren't that many great free agents available next year, and the Grizzlies are going to have so much salary cap room next year. You could accept a couple of bad contracts and still have max salary cap space for a free agent next season. So one of the things going into free agency I'm looking for are the Grizzlies players and trying to sign somebody outright? Are they just going to try to get someone in the mid-level exception? Or are they going to accept some players onto this roster knowing it is done for the purpose of gathering future assets? And I think that's very exciting. And so, again, I'm in a good mood. It isn't often the Grizzlies win the offseason. Normally, we just grind out wins in the regular season during the height of the Core 4 era. Now it's in a weird stretch where, like, NBA nerd Twitter, Dunked on Hive Mind, is completely praising all Grizzlies moves, which I kind of like it. I can get used to it, even if they should blow it up crowd recognizes that if the Grizzlies had done the things they wanted to the last couple years, none of this would have been available for them. Anyway, par fadeaway. If you're going to Las Vegas, I will probably have the second annual Fast Breakfast break, where we meet for breakfast. I think probably on Saturday morning, rough morning, maybe like at 10 a.m. in Las Vegas before everyone's body clocks get incredibly off by staying up to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 in the morning. So early on in Summer League, if you're there, probably Saturday morning, July 6th, we'll have a little meet up. All right. If you want to support the show, you can do that by going to patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. You can follow me on Twitter at fastbreakbreak. Follow John, Master John Burr. Follow Chuck, the mighty Chuck. All right, you guys are the best. Thanks for listening. And remember, breakfast is the most important thing.
Yeah, never apologize for being G and G. Fad break, man. You understand?